Hello, today we'll see a few examples on how to use the mod operations. First of all, I'll add a sprite, and we'll cycle through an array of colors to change its modulate. The modulate is multiplied with the color of the sprite. We'll see more about color operations in the future. Control drag the icon. Let's create an array of colors. Okay, now we need to keep track of the current color. For that, we'll create an integer. This one will take the values 0 for blue, 1 for green, 2 for red, but also -1 for red, -2 for green, and -3 for blue. We'll see about arrays and indices in the future. I'm going to use a setter function. The setter function will be called every time we attempt to change the color index. So first of all, change the value of color to the given value. Set the label so that we know what's happening. And change the icon.modulate. Colors, color index. We use the square brackets to get the object at a given index. Set the color index to 0. We get 0 on the label, and the modulate has become blue. Now we can use the process function and say if input is action just pressed, and we'll use UI left for the left arrow, color index minus equals 1. We decrease our index by 1. We change this to right and the minus to a plus. Now if we run this, we have 0. I press the right arrow, it becomes 1, 2. Now we get an error. The index became 3 and we got an out of bounds error. If we try for the other side, we have -1, -2, -3, and again an error. To fix this, we go to value and use mod the amount of colors, which is 3. So we have 0, 1, 2, and 0. And that was because value became 3, and 3 mod 3 is 0. Okay, let's add another color. But we cannot see it here. Well, unless we go backwards. -1 is the last element, which is purple. Going backwards, we skip the green color. The problem here is that we use the magic number. This is a number that was used without an explanation. So instead of 3, we are going to say colors dot size. That will give us the size of the array, which is now 4. Now we get the purple color. Also, if we move in the negative direction, now we can see the green again. Okay, that was an example for the mode operator. Let's see one about pause mode. I'll create another scene. Use a panel container. We'll set the custom minimum size to 100. In overrides, styles, pick the style box flat. Now pick any color you like. Let's create a border. And I'm also going to add the text to rect. Now let's save this as slot. Hide the icon, we don't need it. Add an HBox container. Make sure it's under the control node, not the icon. We'll set it to center bottom. And just add the slots. That's one slot. With Ctrl D we can duplicate it. And now we have a hotbar with 5 slots. Let's say that the first slot has a sword, the second has a pickaxe, and so on. Let's use the text to rect. Right click and select Editable Children. Now we add an image. As you can see, the slot became bigger. The size is 128. So we select Ignore Size. So we want our selected slot to be bigger than the others. So let's say that if we're holding the sword, the first slot will be bigger than the rest. We can do that by changing the custom minimum size. However, it changes the others too, because they're all in the same HBox container. The X has remained the same, but the Y has changed. In order to fix that, we'll go back to the slot. And in container sizing, in the layout, on vertical, we select Shrink End. Now they're back to normal. Let's add the container. And say, selected slot. This is going to work pretty similarly to the color index, but with nodes. Every time we change the selected slot, the previous one becomes smaller and the current one becomes bigger. We use the getChild function. This function returns one of the children. The first one will be 0, 1, 2, 3, just like an array. We can also give negative indices. So this is -1, -2, -3, and so on. Keep in mind we haven't changed the value of selected slot yet. Right now, value and selected slot are not the same. So we change the minimum size. And it's going to be a vector 2, 100 by 100. If you want, you can also use a constant. Base size. Copy this value here. And use the base size. Let's also create a selected size. $150. Now we'll change the selected slot to the value. And set label.text. Finally, get child selected slot, custom minimum size. Equals selected size. Set the selected slot to 0 in our ready function. And on our process function, we decrease it by 1 when we press the left arrow, and we increase it by 1 when we press the right. We have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Also we have -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. Again, if we go outside, we get an error. Get a child return null. The solution would be to use the mod operator. We say hbox container dot get child count, which is the amount of children it has. Now let's say we're displaying the number of each slot and we don't want the number to be negative. We have to use the pos_mod function. Zero, 1, 2, 3, 4, just like before. But if we use the left arrow, it says 4 instead of -1. If you want, you can add 1 in the label so that it makes more sense. This is slot 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is a simple example for the pos_mod function. Okay, let's move on to the last example. Hide the hbox. We'll see the rough function for integers. We add another hbox container and we copy paste our label. Paste another one. Now we need to center the hbox. I'm going to name the first label hour label, and the second one AM label. We say var AM, and this one is going to show whether it's AM or PM. And that is going to be an integer from 1 to 12. So in our set function, we say if value is less than 1 or value is greater than 12, AM is equal to not AM. So it just flips this variable. Now we can say hour is equal to RAPI value 113. And finally set the hour label. And we also have to set a label for the AM. AM is equal to value. And AM label dot text is equal to stram. Now let's say that it's 1 AM. This is not going to trigger the setter. Finally, we have to change the hour. Hour minus equals 1. And hour plus equals 1. Let's hide this label. Okay, no one saw that. We say AM if AM is true, else PM. Okay, so it's 1 AM, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're at 12 AM, and it becomes 1 PM. We can also go backwards with a left arrow. Okay, those were the examples I wanted to show. In the next video, we'll move on to enums. Till next time.